Hello, everyone. It's afternoon for me in the UK. It's 1 p.m. I do realise this isn't a great time for people in the US and Canada, but you can always catch it on the replay, can't you? So I thought I'd do something a little bit different today, and I'd cover a missing persons case that is in my neck of the woods. It's probably about, I don't know, 15 miles away from where I live. And until the other day, I'd never heard of Trevor Farthing, which I find incredible. I don't understand how there can be thousands and thousands of missing people that no one's heard of. Anyway, someone shared an episode of a podcast in my Facebook group the other day. And since then, Trevor Farthing has been on my mind. So I'm going to play a little bit from that podcast. I'm going to play a few minutes from that podcast. It's a very interesting podcast. It's called The Missing. And there's a number of cases on there I've noticed. I haven't listened to them all yet, but that I've covered. And yeah, I didn't even know this podcast existed. So what I want to do today is talk about Trevor and the circumstances of his disappearance. And I'm going to go and look for this guy because he's very close. He's a different county. It's in Merseyside, but I'm like on the border. I'm in Lancashire, but I'm like on the border of Greater Manchester, and then the Merseyside border's very close as well. So Trevor actually went missing from a location closer to me than Nicola Bulley, even though Nicola Bulley was in the same county. So yeah, I'm going to go and look for this guy. And yeah, but we're going to talk about him today. And he's been missing since 2017. 6 years, 6.5 years actually, because it was June 2017. And I'd never heard of him until the other day. So he's on my mind. So I want to talk about him. But first of all, before we get into it, let's see who's in the house. Shelley Roo, Purple AJ, Mandy, Lemon Lime and Bittersweet, Wood Chipper. Oh, it's 5 a.m. Pacific. Oh, well. People who are still asleep on a Sunday morning can catch this on the replay. Dr. Mama, good morning. Hello, Mike. CW. Yeah, it has been pretty windy. It's been very windy. It was very windy here last night. Blowing a gale it was. Brianna, Bamcat, Sky Blue. Who else have we got? So very local to you as well. Yeah, it's quite local to me. Depends on your definition of local, but he's not more than 15 miles away from where I live. Never heard of him. I don't know. I must live under a rock or something. I know more about what goes on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean than I know what's going on in my local area. Something a bit wrong there. Hello, Brenda. Pickle Toes Grandma. Manchester Vicky. Ever seen the man found in Rivington? No. Like I just said, I know more what's going on in the United States than I know what's going on in my neck of the woods. Why? What's happened in Rivington? What's a dead person or a live person? I can see Rivington. I can see Rivington from where I'm sitting right now. Hello, Cheryl, Diane, Ash. What else have we got in? Rexy. HSFX from Wisconsin. Little Owl. Oh, deceased. Oh, no. No one knows who it is. Oh, wow. When was that? Hold on. Unfound Rivington. Oh, 2 days ago. Let's have a look here. Tragedy as man found dead in Rivington Field wearing distinctive Casio watch. Officers were called to Deanbrook near Horrobin Lane shortly before 3 p.m. on Thursday. Approximately 40 to 50 years of age, wearing a distinctive watch, despite the best efforts yet to identify the man. No confirmed, no, what? Oh, Lank's Live's annoying with all these adverts. No connection to the ongoing search for missing Brian Blakeman near Scam. I don't even know who Brian Blakeman is. That's another person I've never heard of. Police have today issued a description of the man, asking for anyone who knows who it is to get in touch. Wow. Okay, that's even closer to me. All right. Keep an eye on that story. Flower of Scotland gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Who's got them? Rexy, Manchester Vicky, Bamacat, Brianna, sorry, and Ash. Well, thank you so much, Flower of Scotland. So you 5 guys get 1 month's free membership, courtesy of Flower of Scotland. Oh, what's going on in Tennessee? What's going on in Tennessee? Tornado tore Tennessee up last night. Oh, no. We must be getting the tail end of it because it's a westerly wind. So we must be getting the tail end. Wow. Well, yeah, I hope everyone's okay. Wow. Okay, right. Trevor. So this is Trevor. I'm going to go through this article, which was posted a few days ago after the podcast was released. And this is another one of those articles that has 500 adverts on it. So it keeps like, where does it start? Okay, right. So we're gonna read this article and then I'll play a little bit of the podcast and we're going to do a bit of map time. So Trevor Farthing was last seen in the Marshall's Cross Road area. This is St Helens, Merseyside, on Wednesday, June 21st, 2017, disappeared with just the clothes on his back. Police have made extensive inquiries to find the dad, and he's also granddad, but searches have proved unsuccessful. His family, including partner Marie, and Marie is on the podcast, so you're going to hear from Marie, have made repeated emotional appeals to trace him and get him home where he belongs. So he was aged 52 when he went missing, 5'5", so only short for a guy, with blue eyes. He had a shaved head. He's also got a full sleeve of tattoos on his left arm and a scorpion tattoo as well. He's also got a birthmark under his chin on the right side, like the size of a 10p coin. So quite distinctive guy. So he was known to visit the canal near the Bradley Road area of Newtonley Willows. Loved to go on walks around canals and beauty spots in nature. So that's Marie, and then one of his daughters. He's got 3 daughters. Marie appeared on the Missing podcast presented by Pandora Sykes to talk about the ongoing search for Trevor. Marie, but they've been together for more than 30 years. Page unresponsive. Go away. It's not unresponsive. Oh, what? Okay. Start again. Oh, what are all these adverts? Stop it. So they've been together for more than 30 years. So in the podcast, and it's very worth a listen. I don't know, I'll have to reshare now. Okay. All right. So in the podcast, she goes into kind of how they met, what they enjoyed doing in the kind of younger years and stuff. So it's very interesting. It's worth a listen. And it's not long. It's only about, the whole episode is only about 30 minutes. And I've linked it in the description box for anybody who does want to go and listen to it. They raised a family consisting of Marie's daughter Gemma, who Trevor raised as his own, and their own two children, Faye and Megan. The family moved to Newtonley-Willows in 2002. So he had various jobs, but he did go from job to job. He never quite settled on kind of one career, I guess. So he worked as a painter, a decorator, did cockle picking, worked as a mechanic. So I think one of the crucial elements to this story, though, is Trevor's ongoing struggles with mental ill health. And I think that's very, very important, because he was in the midst of a mental health crisis when he went missing. He'd actually gone missing from a mental health unit at a hospital. That's where he was last seen. So I think that tells us a lot. Marie said on June 18th, so this is just 3 days before he went missing, he'd gone out for a walk with the dogs, and these are the two dogs. They had a Saluki lurcher called Todd, and then a small terrier type dog called Flint. So he enjoyed going walking with his dogs. But he came back. He'd had an argument. I think he had an argument with one of his daughters. Took the dogs out and then came back, and he wasn't his usual self. And it was at that point that the family realized that he needed help. He'd been to his doctor previously for medication to deal with depression and anxiety. But it was at that point, June 18th, 2017, that he was taken in to hospital. 3 days later, Marie got a call from the centre to say Trevor had left and was last seen on Marshall's Cross Road. So we're going to get the map up in a minute, so you get a good feel for the location. And he hasn't been seen since. The podcast stated how police conducted a comprehensive search, including helicopters and divers, out looking for Trevor, but nothing was found. Now, this is really important. Trevor's phone was traced to somewhere called Bull Moss Common, near to where Trevor and Marie used to live and go for walks, but no trace of him was found in that area either. So his phone pinged. Now, I don't know whether they actually found the phone, they actually found the physical phone, or whether this was a phone ping. But it was traced to Bald Moss Common. So I know where that is. And again, I'm going to get the map up in a minute and look at the locations. Detectives have also appealed to trace a woman who was believed to have met Trevor in the Bradley Road area of Newtonley-Willows near to the Sankey Canal on June 18th. So there's a woman who met Trevor near the canal where he'd gone for his walk on June 18th, who was that concerned about him that she took him home. So the woman, though, has never been traced. The woman's never come forward. But I guess we've only got Trevor's word that a woman actually took him home. It's just that day is very odd. So the podcast heard about possible sightings of Trevor, though none have led to progress in finding him. One person from Warrington, so that's not too far away from St Helens, got in touch saying that they thought they'd seen him. Another witness said they thought they'd spoken to him near the canal and he had whiskey and a bike. However, he hadn't got a bike with him because he'd come from hospital. So whether that was Trevor and he'd acquired a bike from somewhere, or whether that was just somebody who thought they'd seen him and actually saw someone else, we don't know. Another suggestion has said that they'd seen him on Earlstown railway station. So that's Trevor. So these are people who just contacted the family. And we don't know, like none of these sightings have been confirmed. If he was somewhere and he was living his life with somebody else, it would be nice to think that he would think of us and just pop somebody a note and say, could you let these know I'm okay and I'm getting on with it? I would be happy with that, said Marie. Now, look, I don't think that a man who's been with someone for 30 years, has got 3 daughters, and he had 1 grandchild at the time he disappeared. He's got more grandchildren now that he's never met, and 2 dogs that he loved walking, would just walk away from his life. However, it's happened before, and I think this is why I keep thinking about this case, because this very thing happened to a friend of mine a few years ago, and I have told this story on a couple of different videos, I think. It's quite a few years ago now, maybe 10 years ago, I want to say. A friend of mine just completely went missing. He just walked away from his life. He'd recently split up with a partner, but they were still in contact, and she went round to his house one day. She'd not heard from him. She went round, she still had a key. She went in, and his 2 cats were there, and he adored these 2 cats. 2 cats were there, so she fed the cats. He was nowhere to be seen. It was just like he just walked away, and he never went anywhere without his car. Right, Neil, he just never went anywhere without his car, and his car was in the driveway. So she went round to the neighbours, and they hadn't seen him. And eventually she called the cops and reported him missing. And he just disappeared. So there's a group of us set up a Facebook group, like a private Facebook group. And Neil had friends like literally all over the country, like very sociable guy. But he did suffer from PTSD due to being in the military years before. And he'd recently lost a job, or he was having issues with a job. He'd recently split up with this partner. So potentially, you know, his mental health had declined, unbeknownst to everybody else. So we had a friend who was a graphic designer. She made these really good posters, and I was putting posters up all over my local area, because even though he lived in the Midlands, near Alfreton in the Midlands, the police had managed to ping his phone in Blackpool, which is on the coast, and it's not near the Midlands. So I thought he's got on a train. He's got on a train and he's gone to the coast, which is very concerning. So I was putting posters up all over my local area, because at the time where I was working, I was getting on the train that went between Manchester and Blackpool. Anyway, a mental health nurse at the local mental health facility near me saw one of these posters that I'd been putting up on trains and railway stations and everywhere. I've been putting these posters everywhere. And she had a patient in the mental health facility who'd been brought in by the police, and they didn't know who he was. He couldn't speak. He was in what is known as a dissociative fugue. He didn't know who he was. And she went up to him, having seen this poster, and said, "Neil," and he responded. And he'd been there for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks at that point. And he was in the mental health facility about 3 miles away from where I live and not close to where he lived. The police had picked him up, realised that he was in some kind of mental health crisis, and he'd been taken to the nearest mental health facility. So even though, like, my first thought was, surely somebody would not walk away from their life, from their, you know, the kids and the dogs and the partner who'd been there for 30 years. But sometimes, just occasionally, a mental health crisis can spiral out of control and they can go into a dissociative fugue and they don't know who they are. So it's possible he just walked away. It is possible he just walked away. It was a stroke of luck, little bear paws. It was. I just had a feeling. Like we had people putting posters up all over the UK. We even had people putting posters up abroad. We had a big network because he was in the military, so we were contacting like military websites, forums. He was also, when he left the military, been a truck driver for a long time. So we had like people who were working on the roads, putting posters on like truck stops and stuff like that. We had posters everywhere. But when I found out that his phone had pinged in Blackpool, I thought, right, he's got on the train at Alfreton, he's gone to Manchester, and then he's got on a train to the coast. And that proved to be right. He had. So anything's possible when somebody's in the throes of a mental health crisis. He could have literally walked away in a dissociative fugue. But this is 6.5 years ago. So where is he now? Or the other possibility that I don't think anybody wants to contemplate is that he's gone and harmed himself. That's the other possibility. So we'll just finish reading this and then get the map up. The podcaster DIY projects that Trevor left behind at home serve as a reminder of the void he has left in his family's lives. Marie vowed she would never give up the search for Trevor. She added, "I'm not ready to move on anywhere until I know where he is, what happened to him. I need to know. My life hasn't moved on anywhere." This is horrible for her. 6.5 years. Although I'm carrying on, my life is not moving on because it's the not knowing. Nothing towards anybody who's lost someone. Nothing towards anybody who's lost someone, but they know where they are. I don't know where Trevor is. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if he's passed away. I don't know if he's carried on in life. My journey never stops. You never stop looking. You're always looking. Anyone with any information or anyone who knows his whereabouts can contact police via MerCallCC. So presumably that's Twitter. So that's Merseyside Police. Call 101 or 0151 777 2014. Alternatively, information can be left with the independent charity Missing People by calling 116-000 or by emailing 1600 missingpeople.org.uk. Okay. So there's a couple of locations that I've got up here on the map. So this is where St Helens is. So just for kind of orientation purposes. So northwest of England, you got Liverpool and Manchester. So St Helens is right in the middle of Liverpool and Manchester in the county of Merseyside. So he was last seen on Marshall Cross Road. So this is St Helens Hospital, and there's a mental health unit here at St Helens Hospital. So that's where he was last seen, and he just walked away. So how he just walked away, how they let him walk away, you can't see the map. Sorry, guys. Okay, so let's do that again. So northwest of England, It's kind of near Liverpool. It's in between Manchester and Liverpool. So St Helens, small town in Merseyside. So Marshall Crossroads here, and there's a mental health unit connected to this hospital. Okay. Now the other location that was mentioned is a few miles away, and it's Bradley Road. So on the 18th of June, allegedly, he was seen on Bradley Road, which is near the canal. So this is the canal. It's a disused canal. No. That's Newtonley Willows. So they were living in Newtonley Willows, which is here. And the mental health unit is in St Helens, which is the next town across, which is here. His phone, okay, let's, his phone though pinged in, hold on, let me find it. Here. So this is Collier's Moss Common. Now Marie called it Bold Moss Common, but you've got Bold Lane here, and then you've got Bold Well, and I think that's the site of an old coal mine. Woodchipper gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Thank you. So here you guys have got a month's free membership courtesy of Woodchipper, Rambling Rome, Jackie Collins, Music City Mom, who else? Snarks. That's a good word. Breaking Windows. There you go. You guys, I've got a month's free membership. Thank you, Woodchipper. Thank you. So you've got Bold Well, Bold Lane. So I think this must be Bold Moss Common, or what Marie calls Bold Moss Common, around here. And it's very close to the hospital. His phone pinged somewhere in here. Let me just get rid of that. You see how far that is from there. So 2.5 miles. So he's walked away from St Helens Hospital, and he's definitely gone 2.5 miles for his phone to ping somewhere in here. Now, there has been extensive searches of this area, but if he's in here, how on earth has he been missed? So you've got some woods, you've got this lake thing here, which has been searched. All of this stuff has been searched, but you never know. There's another lake there. So let's have a listen to a few minutes from this podcast. He's been missing since June 21st, 2017. He would have been at Peasley Cross Mental Health, which is not at the hospital, it's just down the road. Yeah, it's on the same road though as the hospital, Marshall Cross Road. So I just put St Helens Hospital in as like an easy reference. Can't help but think he's in the canal. Yeah, well, the canal's further up here. It's like close to Newtonley Willows. It runs kind of around the back of Newtonley Willows. That's where the canal is. And it's a disused canal, so I don't know how deep it is or anything. So it's quite possible that he's walked along here, walked through the fields and gone to the canal and dropped his phone. If his physical phone was found, could have dropped his phone. But I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, let's I'm going to play a few minutes from this podcast. So it's a missing podcast. It's the I listen to podcasts on Apple, but yes, Sankey Canal, yeah. Are there lock gates on the canal? His remains could be caught up in that. I'm assuming there will be, but I don't know where they would be. And it's a disused canal, so it's not like the locks are being used. If his phone ping was right there, why are they not looking right there? They have. They have. There's been extensive searching. But let's play a few minutes from this podcast. So this is talking about when he went missing. Let me know that you can hear this. All right.
From the worst of it. But this time round, he realised that wasn't an option.
He felt he needed a little bit of help. So he went in to see the doctor and they gave him some medication.
But this didn't seem to help matters much. In fact, things only seemed to deteriorate.
He started having absences and he started with non-epileptic seizures, which was very scary. He was just about to go and have scans on his brain before he went missing.
You see, that to me is also another important nugget of information. That if he was having seizures or absences, that could well be periods of dissociation. And depending on the nature of the seizures, because there's different kinds of seizures, but you've got absence seizures where you don't actually lose consciousness. But what was called seizures could have been periods of dissociation. Whether that's relevant though to why he's been missing for 6.5 years is anybody's guess. Yes, he was. He'd been to the doctors to get some medication for his depression and his anxiety, but that wasn't helping. And then on June 18th, he took the dogs for a walk after having an argument and came back and he wasn't himself. And it was at that point that they realised he needed help. He was taken to hospital. And 3 days later, on the 21st, they got a call to say that he'd walked away from the hospital. So presumably he wasn't sectioned. Like, what if you get sectioned under the Mental Health Act, then you're basically locked in. You're on lockdown. So he's walked away from here, Marshall Cross Road, here. His phone pinged 2.5 miles away, somewhere in here. I'm sure this must be what Marie calls Bold Cross Common, because on the map it's called Collier's Moss Common, but then you've got Bold Lane, you've got Bold Well, so I'm guessing that this is Bold Common, or what locals call Bold Common. Because listen, there's fields and places where I walk, and I have a name for them all. Those names don't appear on maps. It's what the locals call them. Officially, they call something completely different. I'd like to know exactly where his phone pinged, but that's a railway line there. And then he was living in Newtonley Willows, which is the next town along here. And the canal is here. Now, he liked to walk along the canal. So, did he leave hospital in a dissociated state, go in the direction of home, and then something happened? Was he trying to walk home across the fields and something happened? If so, where is he? He was waiting. He was just about to have scans on his brain. He'd not had them yet, though. So the two important factors, actually 3 important factors. 1, he was in the throes of a mental health crisis. 2, he was having absent seizures, which could have been periods of dissociation. Even if they were actual seizures, then obviously if you're in a mental health crisis, you have a seizure and you wake up disoriented, you're already in a crisis. What state you're going to be in? Anything could happen. And then 3, his phone pinged here, somewhere around here, 2.5 miles away, but in the direction of home. Newtonley Willows is here, where he lived. So it looks to me like he's going home. It doesn't look to me like he's walking away from his life. It looks to me like he's walking to familiar places, because Marie says in this podcast that this is where they used to walk. And then this is where he walked now with the dogs at the canal. For me, it doesn't look like he's trying to walk away from his life, because there's a train station right there. If he wanted to walk away from his life, you go to a train station at St. Helens. I don't know. I think he tried to go home. That's just my assessment of the situation, which could mean nothing. Did he have a seizure along the canal? Well, possibly. The canal has been searched, and it is a disused canal now, so I don't know how deep it is. Okay, so let's carry on with this podcast.
To see, if there's any effect there.
Trevor was nevertheless a proactive and practically minded man. He was determined to do what he could to keep his mental health in check, giving himself the time he needed and immersing himself in nature.
He wasn't the person who went shopping, the local towns. He was one of them people who liked to walk down the canal and through the woods, and, he liked to do things like that. So that's what he did a lot of the time.
And when he did go walking, he was typically accompanied by his most trusted companions.
He liked to take the dogs out for a walk. The big one's Saluki Lurcher. His name's Todd. And the little one is called Flint, because he's black and he's a little scruffy terrier.
Trevor still enjoyed the occasional tipple with friends.
He used to go for a drink at St. Helens Town Centre. He had a few friends there. He used to go probably once a week, and then it dwindled down to just every now and again. But they all used to come to him for advice. He was like a Samaritan when he used to go to town. And then eventually, one of the friends he was talking to used to come our house on a regular basis on a weekend. It became like his drinking partner.
In the months leading up to his disappearance, however, Trevor seemed to lose interest in his weekly pub outings. They became less of an appeal. Perhaps the crowds, or the noise of the bar, or the depressive effects of the drink put him off. Instead, he found new ways to pass the time.
Probably the last 12 months, he didn't go out. He kind of just... But when his friend used to come down, he started doing archery as well for a spell. He bought a bow and arrow, and he was doing archery, which he enjoyed that.
But then one Sunday, in June 2017, everything suddenly came to a head.
When we got up as usual, he seemed a bit irritated further on in the day. He had a drink on that day as well, which he doesn't usually do. He only usually has a drink on a night, maybe at weekends. But this particular day, he'd had a drink through the day. He had an argument with one of his daughters and went out for a walk with the dogs. And he came back and he wasn't his usual self.
Trevor was behaving irrationally and got into a shouting match with his family. And the argument escalated to the point where Marie had no choice but to call for backup. She was worried for her partner, who was clearly distressed. So that evening, Trevor was taken away for treatment at a nearby facility. It was June the 18th, one day after Marie's birthday, and this threw the family into complete disarray.
It was one of them moments where we didn't know what to do.
3 days later, Marie got a phone call from the treatment centre.
He'd left and they can't find him.
Trevor was last seen on Marshall's Cross Road in St Helens at about 9:30 in the morning, a busy main road not far from the facility he had spent the last few nights in. Marie didn't know where Trevor had gone or what was going through his mind, but she knew there was no time to ruminate on it and immediately sprang into action.
Well, I contacted the police to tell them and that he'd gone missing, and they put everything into the process of looking for him straight away. I think because he came from the facility as well. Whereas I think if he hadn't have been there, then the search might not have gone ahead as quick as it did.
Yeah, I mean, we heard recently in the Nicola Bully case, I went through that very, very long review that the College of Policing did, that once someone's deemed high risk and vulnerable, then it's a priority search. So the police would have, if he'd just been a guy who, his partner couldn't get hold of him for a day, they would have well, okay, he's a grown up, he can go away for a day and whatever, he's had an argument, he can go and cool off somewhere. They wouldn't have taken it seriously, would they? But because he was in a mental health facility and he'd walked away from there, he would have been considered high risk and vulnerable. So searches did start immediately on that day. So by the time Marie contacted the police, it would only probably have been a few hours, probably even less than a few hours. She got a call at 9:30 in the morning and called the police. So how far could he have possibly got? So again, we'll look at the map. Yeah, I agree with you there, down the rabbit hole to hell. Great name. Non-epileptic seizures happen because of problems with handling thoughts, memories, emotions, or sensations in the brain. Such problems are sometimes related to stress. Yes, I agree with that. But in a more severe form, it can be a period of dissociation. How much did he drink, like blackout or anything? I don't know. I don't know. So this is Marshall's Cross Road. This is where he was last seen at. So we've been heading this way. So the mental health unit is on this road. The hospital's on this road as well. Hospital's there, I think. So he's walked along here. And this is the last time he was seen. And then after that, where are we going? We're in the wrong direction. Oops. Go away. All right, turn it around. Hey, after that, his phone pinged somewhere in here 2.5 miles away. No cameras are seen. I don't know. There must be cameras. There must be cameras. You'd think there were cameras all along that route. But obviously, if he's cut through, because this is an area he's familiar with, remember? If he's cut through kind of little side streets and stuff, then once he's away from that main road, he could have cut down there and walked that way onto that area. Doesn't necessarily mean he's gone via the road. That's just the way that Google's taking me. He could have gone this way, through this housing estate here, and through there. And that's Collier's Moss Common. And then you've got Bold Well, Bold Lane. So he's probably gone that way. And that would be a quicker route through there. I think he's trying to get home. I do. I really do. It doesn't seem like he was evading, walking along a road, clearly. No, I don't think he was running away. When he was last seen, was he walking normally? I don't know. I couldn't answer that. Oh, Mimi, diagnosed with CPSD and dissociative amnesia with fugue. It sucks badly. Yeah, it's horrible. Subconsciously, he's heading home. Yeah. He lived here, Newtonley Willows. Doesn't look like he's going away anywhere. I mean, it's possible that he could have got a lift. Someone could have picked him up. But I don't know. I don't think so. All right, let's listen to a little bit more of this.
Anyone perceived as being in a vulnerable place, as Trevor was at that time, is treated by police with the utmost urgency. Should a missing person be seen as a risk to themselves or others, reacting with speed is imperative. And after getting off the phone with the authorities, knowing the wheels of a search were in motion, Marie had the horrible task of breaking the news of Trevor's disappearance to their children.
It wasn't a good conversation. But they come searching with us as well. But I tried to not include them on the mall because I thought, if we do come across something, anything, then I wouldn't like them to be there. So we stopped taking them in the end.
Meanwhile, the police were deploying resources across Newton Le Willows in an attempt to locate Trevor.
They put on a good search for him. They searched everywhere. They had helicopters out looking for him. They even had divers.
Despite the reassurance that the police were doing everything they could, emotions were running at their peak.
We came across the police searching the canal, Newton Willows Canal, because we know he liked water and, he liked fishing and all that.
There were few things that Trevor enjoyed more than taking a leisurely stroll along the canal before sitting down with his fishing rod and chatting with passers-by.
Was hard, very hard at the time, to come across it like that, because it sets memories and things in your mind, so you start overthinking things. It made you think about, well, did he do stuff like that? Did he do that? You know what I mean? It sets your mind off racing then. I mean, because I've seen the helicopters overhead, and we seen the police searching, but we never come across them in the water like that, which was a bit hard.
Trevor hadn't taken many belongings with him when he'd gone into the facility, so some of the more typical methods of trying to discern someone's whereabouts weren't an option for investigators.
No, because he didn't have anything with him. All his bank cards and everything. You see, Trevor was like the old kind of guy. He didn't like cash machines. He liked to go into a bank.
One thing Trevor did have on him, however, was his mobile phone.
You know what I mean? He didn't like modern phones. He liked the old-fashioned type, just a button and get where you're going without all these fancy screens. He was kind of old-fashioned in a way. He didn't like technology. He didn't like the world moving on as quick as it was. But yeah, he had a phone on him. That's why they found his phone.
Despite the age of the phone, authorities did manage to triangulate its location.
Well, the only where it was pinged was around the place where we used to live before we moved to this address. It was called the Moss Common. But yeah, we used to walk over there a lot. It's a nice place to go for a walk. My daughter still goes there with the dogs. We used to sit round as they call it, the lagoon, because there's an area of water around there which used to go and picnic around it.
So she calls it Bald Moss Common. The map calls this area Collier's Moss Common. But there's Bold Mill, Bold Well, and this is Bold Lane. So I think this is Bald Moss Common. His phone was pinged, and it sounds like the way she was talking that they actually found his physical phone. So if they found his phone, he's either dropped it and not realised that he's dropped it, or he's thrown it away. But if he's thrown it away, he's still heading in the direction of home. And this is the place near where they used to live, where they used to walk. And I'm wondering whether this is what Marie called the lagoon. And it doesn't look, somebody asked if it was marshy. No, it doesn't look marshy. It's grass and woodland. And then these look like farmers' fields. They look like ploughed fields. So no, it's not marshy. It's not like it could get stuck in a marsh. It's wooded. But I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. I'd like to know exactly where his phone pinged. Like the spot. I want the spot where his phone pinged. And work out from there. That's what I'm going to do. Did they drag the lagoon? I know they had divers. They had divers in to the bodies of water. Now, I don't know, because there's a small body of water there. I mean, that doesn't look like a huge lake. Don't know how deep it is. So, for now, just for now, I'm going to disregard him walking away from his life. It's possible he's walked off in a dissociative fugue, but I don't think he's intentionally walked away from his life, or else he'd have had a plan. He'd have gone to the train station. Now, he didn't have any money. He may have had a little bit of money on him. He may have had like a few quid in his pocket. I don't know. But he didn't have any like bank cards or anything with him. So it's not like he could survive unless someone was paying for him. So I'm going to disregard him intentionally walking away, just for now, because it seems to me it's more likely he was distressed in hospital, and who can blame him? He's distressed already because of his mental health crisis, and he's going home. He's going in the direction of home. He's going here to home. And this is an area, if I'm right, in that this is Bournemouth Moss Common, this is an area where they used to walk and that he enjoyed going. Now, that to me says two things. Either he's gone to a place that he's familiar with and sadly he's harmed himself there, or he was walking through there in an attempt to go home and something happened, like a seizure. He could have had some kind of brain injury or something that was causing the seizures, not related to his mental health. We don't know because he hadn't had any scans yet. So he'd had a medical emergency, which has then created some kind of accident scenario. So those are the two options. Either he's harmed himself in a location he's familiar with, or he had no intentions of harming himself. He was heading home and then something accidental or a medical emergency happened. But honestly, there's not that many places where you could fall down and never be found again. Is there really? You know, this is woodland, but it's not really dense woodland. I'm sure people go in there. Like there's all these little tracks and trails. They'll be like walking trails. Now for me, I stay off trails. I go in woods. But I guess not everybody does. And you've got this area up here. I think it's the site of an old mine. You know, Collier's, Moss Common. There's coal mines all over this area up until like the 1960s, 1970s. So I think that's the site of an old mine. It looks like it. These might be areas where the shafts were. I'm just guessing. But this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go there. The other option is the canal. Right, so he's got close to home. He's walked along the canal and he's fallen in. But again, I don't know how deep that canal is. It's clearly not had an accident on the railway, or else it'd have been found straight away. So the railway's out. So there's a railway bridge there. There are places where it could have been missed. There are. So yeah, I'm not going to play any more of this podcast because I'd like you to go and listen to it. But she goes into talking about what it's been like since that. There's been amateur sleuths who found the case, who've said that she murdered him. You know, the usual nonsense that she murdered him. No, no, she didn't murder him. He was in hospital. He was in hospital and was seen leaving hospital. So there'd have to be, she'd have to be very clever. She's like one of these, criminal mastermind who knew he was leaving hospital and caught him leaving hospital and then murdered him. No, come on now. Come on now. They'd want cadaver dogs, not scent dogs, yeah. Now, that's something I don't know, how many teams of dogs went out. So they've had the divers and they've had helicopters. Now, what dogs went out there? His wife does need closure. Yeah, she does. She does. I would like to know if they had dog teams out. And if so, did they have cadaver dogs out? Never dismissed the argument. Well, the argument was 3 days before, though. So he'd had an uncharacteristic argument with his daughter, like he kind of wasn't himself. He went out to, I guess, clear his head and came back and he wasn't himself. And she ended up calling for assistance because he just wasn't himself. He needed help. That was 3 days previous. He'd been in hospital from that night until him going missing on the 21st. So, yeah, the argument's relevant to what happened on the 18th. And then we've got this mysterious woman who's never been located that he said brought him home. But did they, though? Was there a mysterious woman? And amateur sleuths have also said that the mysterious woman was his girlfriend and he's run away with this girlfriend because he was having an affair. That's something else that Marie has discussed. And she said, no, he wouldn't have an affair, but I guess there's always the possibility that people will have affairs. And there is a possibility that he has run off with somebody, but I don't see it. I don't see it, especially as his phone pinged and he's halfway home by the time his phone pings. He lives here in Newtonley Willows. He's almost halfway home by the time his phone pings. But I need to know exactly where the phone was. And that's the ground zero. That's the place I would start. That's right, little bear, yeah. Sometimes the only way to get mental health is to ring the police, yeah. It is, sadly. That's the state of play. That's what it's like. Pings can happen in weird ways. Is that right? Uncharged and sometimes went off. Yeah, but it was an old phone though. Like he didn't like. It didn't like the new style phones, so presumably it's like literally a phone that you can make calls on and texts. So it wouldn't have had GPS or anything like that. So I'm going to start here. But if he got all the way to the canal, I don't know. I just think if he got that far, if he got to the canal, I just think he would have gone home. Unless an accident happened. But Newtonley Willows, it's not big, but it's, you know, it's quite densely packed, like the houses. So the people who said they've seen him, one of them said that they'd seen him on Earlstown Station, which is here. So, but, right. If he was running away, this is the thing, if he was running away, he'd have got on the train in St. Helens. Why would he walk? Like, what's that going to be? 5 miles to Earlstown Station? He'd just get on the train at St. Helens. There's a train stop right near the hospital. Why would he walk to Earlstown to get on the train? And then there was someone who saw him allegedly near the canal, but he had a bike with him. Now, obviously, he come from hospital. So where, if that was Trevor, where did the bike come from? And then somebody saw him in Warrington. And Warrington is there. But these are all unconfirmed sightings. So, yeah, he could have been walking to Warrington. He could have gone from St. Helens down there to Warrington. But I can't believe if he'd set up a new life, right? I could understand him walking off in a dissociative fugue and ending up miles away from anywhere where nobody knew him, and he's either still there somewhere, but intentionally walking away. I can't believe that after 6.5 years, he's not at least tried to get in touch with somebody from his family. And if he was living in Warrington, it's only a few miles away. I can't believe that he wouldn't have just given somebody a call to say, I've started a new life. I don't want to be found, but I'm okay. The canal was searched, Robert. The canal was searched. Wouldn't there be CCTV at the train station had he gotten on a train? You would think so. This is 2017. Some train stations are very small, like they're unstaffed. Some train stations. I don't know about Earlstown. I know St. Helens Station. That will have CCTV. But Earlstown, I don't know. My two number one theories, I'm not discounting any other theory, but my two theories are either, sadly, he's walked to somewhere that he enjoyed, that was comforting to him, and he's harmed himself, or he was heading home over the fields and something bad's happened, like a medical emergency. And it's perfectly possible that people are missed. Perfectly possible that people are missed. I'll refer you to the case of Bryn Hargreaves. Now, Bryn Hargreaves is from Wigan, very close to here, but he was living in West Virginia, and he just disappeared, left his shower running. And 14 months later, his body was found 300 yards away from his apartment. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. 300 yards. And there'd been extensive searches with cadaver dogs, with, like, I remember I did a video on Michelle Walks. I was covering his case on Michelle Walks. So let me find. If you've been watching Cold Case Christmas, next episode comes out 6 p.m. UK time. It's Daniel Hives tonight. The case of Daniel Hives. All right. Bryn Hargreaves, where is he? She's never been found, Mary, either. That's another weird one. Bryn Hargreaves, where are you, Bryn? Finn's never been found. There we go. Bryn Hargreaves. He's an ex-rugby league player from Wigan. He actually played for St Helens, bizarrely enough, for a while. Moved to West Virginia, though, to start a new life. Was doing quite well. Had a medical issue. Had bad mental health. And then just disappeared one day. Woodchipper, thank you. 5 more memberships. Thank you so much. Who's got them? Blissful Nescence, DC, Laurie, Ralph the Blind Pug, and 0723 Trinity. Well done, everybody. Thank you so much, Woodchipper. That's 15 new memberships, courtesy of Daughter of Scotland and Woodchipper. Yeah, left the shower running. Yeah, left the shower running. So I did a crime story Sunday about him. Where was he? There. I did a crime story Sunday about him. Criminal Mad, thank you for the $4.99. Thank you so much. I did a crime story Sunday about him, and then like a week or two later, human remains have been found and confirmed to be Bryn. And then it took a while for news to come out about where he was found. So I did an update, and it was 300 yards away. There'd been private investigators, and one of the PIs was like jumping up and down saying that the search dogs like weren't good enough and there needed to be better accreditation and things for search dogs. And everyone had just missed him 300 yards away from his apartment in the woods. He was kind of like down a ditch. So maybe it was an area where no one could get down. I don't know. There's also Peter Baglin. I remember covering Peter Baglin from a few months ago. He went missing near Manchester. And his body was found in a canal. I think it was his headphones and some personal items have been found by the side of the canal. And there'd been searches, the divers had been in, and it was only when the police divers revisited that area that they found his body. And he'd been missing for, I want to say, a couple of months, if not longer. Yeah. Peter under the bridge, yeah. Yeah, there was like a bridge over the canal, and some of his belongings have been found by the side of the canal. And he was found right there. So it's perfectly possible that with the best will in the world, even in an area where you think it's been extensively searched, for whatever reason, whoever's fault it might be, or for nobody's fault, they've been missed. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to go there. Will I take my pups for a walk with me? I'll take Cassie, because she'll actually work the area. If there's I know this is horrible, but if there's human remains there, Cassie will find them. But you literally have to be right on the spot. After all this time, you literally have to be right on the spot. But Cassie will find human remains. Tilly will just be trying to find dogs to bark at. And Noodle will run around aimlessly and probably get lost. But Cassie's a worker, so I'll be taking Cassie. Dog walkers do make many finds, yeah, because dogs are attracted to human remains and bones. Noodle can go. I'll end up having to rescue Noodle. He's not the most... he's very clumsy, Noodle. Very clumsy. I'd end up having to go somewhere and rescue him. Like in an area that I don't know, that I've never been to before. I can trust Cassie to go there and actually do a job. Does Loch Ness live in the pond there? I think Loch Ness has a much bigger home than this pond. That's a car. Is it? I don't think how big that is. Okay, so that's my plan. I'm going to go there to start off with, but I really would like to know exactly where his phone pinged, because that's ground zero. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it a day here. Don't want to be on for too long, because most people, I think, who watch my channel are only just about getting up at this time. And it is Sunday, so I don't want to make it too long. Been to Scotland so many times. Scotland's beautiful. Yeah, ponds don't. I think they're maybe ponds connected to like old mines and things. Anyway, right, I'm going to call it a day. So thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll pop over to Michelle Walks at 6 p.m. because episode 10 of Cold Case Christmas will be out. So we've got 9 episodes so far. We've got Shane Fox, Susie Lamplugh, the Evansdale Murders, John and Joyce Sheridan, Molly Bish, the Tynong North Murders, Neil Skinner, the Shakur family murders, and is there a serial killer in Calgary? That's intriguing, that one. It's Daniel Hives tonight, who went missing 1 year ago today. 1 year ago today. So 6 p.m. UK time for the case of Daniel Hives from my county, from Lancashire. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to people who donated. Welcome to the new members. And I will see you very soon. Bye, guys.